All right. I was really pleased when I saw this guy's name on the docket. Cam Moon, the voice of the Edmonton Oilers, joins us here in the dog days of summer. Cam, Chef, thank you, buddy. Smiling as always. How are things in the wild rose country, my dog?
Things are well. Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it. It must be the dog days. You've got me on to fill some time in early August.
As you know, I'd have you on every day. You know where I want to start? I saw you at the Gulls game in Sylvan Lake last week, fully dressed in 32 degrees Celsius long sleeves, like the baseball lover that you are. What, are you a season ticket holder there too? What took you out to the Gulls game, Cam?
Well, I was working a goalie camp that week in Red Deer, so I was in town, and I went with some friends and went to the game. I usually only, as far as the Gulls go, if I get to one or two a year, that's pretty good. The Edmonton Riverhawks, I get to a lot of those. I just went on Saturday. They had a little under 7,000 for the game. They set a West Coast League record, over 116,000 fans over the course of the summer. So, as you know, I love my baseball. And whether that's seeing the Sylvan Lake Gulls play or the Edmonton Riverhawks, I get down to the ballpark quite a bit.
Blue Jays aside, baseball is rocking in Canada, particularly Western Canadian Baseball League. All the stadiums are jammed, dude. It's so much fun. And before we get into the Oilers, you are also a long-time Edmonton Elkamos season ticket holder. How long you had your season seats at Commonwealth, Cam?
They were kind of off and on. There were some years that were off, but it's probably been like 20 years now, at least. Yeah. And I go early. I'm there for the tailgate. I'm all fired up before the game. At some point, I get disappointed. And then it's maybe the train ride back downtown isn't quite as happy lately. Although the Trey Ford fourth quarter last weekend had everybody optimistic. And I'll tell you right now, I was absolutely stunned how many people stayed till the bitter end. As soon as Trey Ford went in, there was just this change of mood in the entire stadium, and everybody stayed right to the bitter end. He had some success, and it seemed like people were, I wouldn't say happy leaving the stadium, because they got a bunch of points late and really had it handed to them after three quarters. But there was a sense of optimism, Rod, and there hasn't been a lot of that lately.
What do you think will go down at Mosaic Stadium Saturday in what I'm calling the biggest trap game in the history of trap games for Sask?
Jeez, I don't know. I really don't. My ability to predict what the Elks are going to do week to week is not good at all. But Trey Ford starting, I mean, who knows? He can move. He was moving the ball downfield again. The game was over at that time. I understand the defense is not having the same mindset or playing the same. And the Riders have a really good team, and they've done a very good job of pulling games out late, especially early in the year. So I think it's still a tough climb for the Elks to get their first win at Mosaic, but it's going to start 0-0. I know that much.
You can predict the score before the start of the game. 0-0.
That's it. That's about all.
Okay, Cam. Yeah. So I don't know when it was. I think it was November. The Oilers rolled through Sunrise, Florida. And I saw you at the press box, if you recall. And that was the first week under Chris Knobloch. And from there, maybe it was our conversation, Cam. It was like clear skies from there. And who'd have thought the Oilers and Panthers would meet again in the Stanley Cup final? Have you, because of the long run, had time to sit back and go, wow, what happened last year? That was something else.
It really was. And you talk about the highs and the lows. I mean, when they were at 2-9-1, and Jay Woodcroft's still there at that time. He got a win after that, and then got let go. Chris Knobloch comes in. At that point, still it's very early in the season. There's a lot of runway left, but you don't have a lot of time to get yourself going in the right direction. And they did. They really did. It took a few games under Chris Knobloch. I thought they had a really good third period in a loss to Carolina, and then a win against Washington on the road during that trip really got things going in the right direction. And then when it started to roll, it started to roll. And I guess we shouldn't be like too surprised that I mean, it was, an incredible run, but there's a lot of talent on that team. And at some point, it was going to right itself, and it did. And then the playoffs, well, I mean, that was just incredible. And there's so much that goes into that. And there's a little bit of luck, and you've got to stay as healthy as possible and all those things. But, being down to Vancouver 3-2, and Stuart Skinner comes out of the series, and Calvin Pickard comes in and gets a win and helps get things going in the right direction. The Oilers got to win 2 in a row to win that series out. Real tough series with Dallas. And if Stuart Skinner isn't out of his absolute mind in Game 6, you're probably going back to Game 7. Well, you are going back to Game 7 in Dallas, and then who knows? Like, there's just so many different times in the postseason where it can swing one way or the other. And then being down 3-0 to Florida, my word, to come back and get 3 straight. I honestly, I thought the Oilers were going to win Game 7, but a credit to the Panthers to get it done after losing 3 straight. It was unbelievable. And to me, Rod, like, all that stuff on the ice, that's amazing. But seeing what it did to the city and how that playoff run was so captivating for Oiler fans, and what downtown was like on a nightly basis, and it was just amazing. And shades of 2006 and shades of the late 80s too. Like, it was crazy. It was a lot of fun. And now, I mean, we got another season coming up real soon. When you play that long, it's a short turnaround, and it's been a busy off season. But it was something that, I'm sure there'll be a lot of, young Oiler fans where this has really solidified the Oilers as their team. And they're going to look back upon the spring and early part of summer of 2024 as being a magical time of a team that they cheered for, went all the way to Game 7.
It's funny. Alan May is an Oilers alum, Edmonton guy, close friend of mine. He went up there in the Stanley Cup final, and he goes, I think this was better than even the 80s. And I'm like, I don't know how anything could be, but you were there, Al, so I won't say otherwise. It's hard to believe that it would be better. But beyond that, Cam, you and I are goalie guys, and I never doubted Stuart Skinner for one damn second. And I wonder how many media and fans can say the same thing in Edmonton. I just didn't. And obviously you were in his corner. You're still working with goalies now. What's your read on how he came through this so battle-tested?
Well, to me, Stuart's greatest asset, and he's got a lot of great assets as far as, athletic and getting side to side. And there's all those technical goaltending parts of his game that there's a lot of them that are very strong. But to me, his greatest asset is his ability to deal with adversity, and whether things go really well or if they don't, for him to just reset and then come back and have everything back to zero without bringing a tough performance with them into the next game. And you saw it in the playoffs in the Vancouver series where he came out of the net and Pickard comes in, plays really well, like he did all season, quite honestly. And he's a tremendous teammate and a very good goaltender. But for Stuart to come back in and play as well as he did the rest of the way in the playoffs, to me, that told me what I already knew, because I've seen him do it many times over the last 2 years. His first season, he becomes a Calder Trophy finalist. And his second season, he takes his team to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. And yeah, there have been ups and downs, and you're going to have that with any netminder. But he just rolls with things so well. He has such a chill outlook, not just on goaltending, but life. And I find that serves him incredibly well. So I wasn't surprised that he was able to, navigate through some treacherous waters when it came to playoffs and during the season, because early in the season, things weren't going well for everybody. And he's able to hit that reset button and then just get right back to where he needs to be and have that ability to have success. So he's done that amazingly well, and I can't wait to see what year 3 brings for him.
It's hard to believe how young he is, right? And it's
I know.
because I don't know the guy. I just watched him in Swifty, right? And now in Edmonton, and it's like maybe you're born with that. I don't really know. I think about quarterbacks because you're such a big CFL fan. Ricky Ray, Drew Willie, although he's not going to the Hall of Fame, was that type of guy of, do you have a pulse, guys? That's just the way they are. And you kind of need to be that way, right?
Well, I think you can have success being really intense and driven and completely dialed in. And there's been many netminders that have had that type of attitude and been successful. But I think you can also be like Stuart and really level-headed and chill. I think of Grant Fuhrer in his time with the Edmonton Oilers, and then a long, very storied, successful National Hockey League career. He didn't get too worked up about things, whether it went well or if it didn't, and that served him well too. It comes down to your personality, but the ability in goal to park a bad outing and then get back to it's hard to do because it's easy to keep that in the back of your head and then have it spiral downward. But Stuart does a good job of moving forward.
Glenn Erickson writes in from Medicine Hat, and he says, Mooner, the best WHL goalie playoff story in the league's history. Let me just ask you this, and I don't get a chance to chat with you that much, so I'm just going to get it all out. We only got you for a couple more minutes, but the fact that Stuart's from Edmonton, good thing or bad thing? Like all those great, or not all those great owners, but a lot of those great owners were from the area, and that just made it cool. How does that affect Stuart, do you think?
Well, I think it's, it can be good and bad. When things aren't going well, there's nowhere to hide because you're from here and you know everybody. When it's going well, it's exceptional. But I do think that, within the fan base, Stuart is much beloved, and not just because he's a very good goaltender, but part of it is because he is from here and he grew up watching the Oilers, and for him to get drafted by the Oilers and now play for them, that's it's a dream come true. But I think it has some pull with the fans, and no different, I guess, than Grant Fuhrer, a similar type story from the area, played the team, had a lot of success, and Stuart's had a lot of success here too. So I think that gives him a lot of street cred.
And he's knocking on the door of some of those Oiler greats' records in goal, which is mind-boggling when you think about it. Are you breaking the story here today of Leon's new contract? Is that what we're doing, Cam? Do you have a scoop to drop for us today?
No, I ultimately think it'll get done. I just don't think it'll get done today, but I think it'll get done.
Okay, I got you. Where else would you want to be, right?
When it happens.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, man. I'll let you get back on with your summer. Anything else? Looks like you're going to say something.
Oh, yeah. Coming up at the beginning of September 6th, Louis DeBrusque and I are going to Nipawin for a fundraiser for the Nipawin Hawks of the SJHL. So we're doing an evening where we get Louis to tell some stories. So I know the Hawks have tweeted out something about it. So all the information is there on the Hawks Twitter. But I haven't been back to Nipawin in a very, very long time, and I am really looking forward to it.
You better be taking Corey Osmak. And Bobby Lowe's better be there too.
Yes. Well, Corey, he'd be like, if I walked him through there, he'd be like walking through Nipawin with Elvis if I brought him there.
Elvis. I gotta pull that clip. What's the place? The Fisher something, what's the big place there? Do you remember? Maybe you didn't go to the bar when you were in Nipawin. The Kingfisher, that's what it is. Yeah.
I may have been to White Fox once or twice.
How about that?
Right. You're probably in Love, too. Love, Saskatchewan is on that same highway. So
it is on that same highway. You're right.
Yeah. All right, Cam. Always a pleasure, my man. Enjoy the rest of summer.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
All right, the voice of the Edmonton Oilers from 6:30, Ched, Cam Moon.